Change the mixed number to an improper fraction. Who would like to? How about Nicholas?
4 thirds.
4/3. Can you tell us what you did to make that happen?
I multiplied 3 times 1, which is 3, and then I added 3 plus 1.
3 times 1 equals 3, and then he added 1. When you decided to do 3 times 1, which one were you thinking of? This one or this one? The whole number. So he did 3 times 1, which is 3, and then you added this, and you got 4/3. Okay? What about this one? Ronnie.
It's
14/5, and you want to explain how you found that? So. Okay, he did 5 times 2, which is 10, and then added the 4, and that gives him 14/5. All right, Lydia.
I got 28/7.
28/7. So you did 4 times 7, which is
28.
and then okay. So you what happened? What part did? Who can tell us what she missed? Haley, what did she miss?
We had to add the 2 to 28.
Right. So you did right. So 4 times 28, and then you have to add this 2 also. Okay. So it equals 37. Okay. We're going to be using this skill in today's lesson, which is 8-4. So go ahead and turn to that. Christina is planning a dance routine. At the end of each measure, she will make a 1 1/4 turn. How many turns will she make after the first 3 measures of music? Now I want you to think about this. How many of you even know what a measure is? I know some of you because you do music or dance. If you don't know what a measure is, it's okay because it doesn't matter. You know that you're looking at, she's going to make a 1 1/4 turn after each one, whatever that measure is, and she's going to have 3 measures. So it doesn't really matter what a measure is. If you don't understand music, it's okay. As long as you are understanding what is being asked. Okay. Will Christina make more or less than 1 1/4 turn in 3 measures of music? So she's going to do it after each measure. She's going to do 3 measures. Will she end up with more or less than 1 1/4 turn? Okay, what do you guys think? More or less? More. And here's why I can tell. After the first measure, how far is she going to turn?
1
1 1/4. Then after the next measure, she's going to do that again. So my answer has to be more than that. What operation will you use to solve the problem? What operation would you use, Angeli? Multiplication. Could I use addition?
Yes.
Yes, I could use repeated addition. Because multiplication is just repeated addition. It's just a faster way of doing it. The first thing I want to do, and which is why I had, for our warm-up exercise, I had you do changing mixed numbers to improper fractions. We are going to change this mixed number to an improper fraction. All right, so what did you get as the improper fraction? 5/4. Now, using the multiplication that we learned yesterday, you guys shouldn't be writing it. Using the multiplication we used yesterday, what do I need to do next? Avani. What is 3 times 5? Is going to be 4ths. Right. So we multiplied 3 times 5. That gave us 15. Our denominator is 4ths. Okay. Now I'm going to write it as a mixed number. I'm going to change that back to a mixed number. The way that it's being demonstrated here is to change those into unit fractions. So I have, how many 1/4 am I going to have? I can tell just by looking at this. How many, Lydia?
15.
I'm going to have 15 1/4. Right? Because if I just keep adding 1, 1, 1, 1, 15 times, I'll end up with 15/4. So go ahead and fill in your 1/4, all these. Okay, so now we're going to group our 1/4 into wholes. How many fourths are going to make a whole? Show me with your fingers. Okay, what do you have? 4. So I'm going to group these 4 right here. That's going to give me 1 whole. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4 more. That's a whole. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4 more. And do I have 4 more over here? No. So what's my whole number? 3. And then what is my fraction left over here? 3/4. Because there's 1, 2, 3 of them. 3/4. So my mixed number is 3 3/4. So she will make 3 3/4 turn. If you multiply 3 times 1/4, is the product or answer going to be greater or less than 3? I want you to think about it. If you have a 1/4 and you multiply it by 3, is your answer going to be less than or greater than 3? You should be able to tell without doing the math. Here's my model. There's a 1/4. Now, what Jalen said is right, but I want you guys to think about, if I do this times 3, do I even have 1 whole? No, I don't, because there's 1. Here will be my times 2, and here's my times 3. It's not even a whole. Remember yesterday when we talked about it and I said, if you have a fraction of a number, even though you're multiplying it by a whole number, you're still talking about fractions of pieces, not a whole piece. Up here we had multiplied by 1. Remember this question asked us up here, will it be more than or less than 3? Well, we were multiplying by a whole. So 3 times 1 is 3. Then we have some fractional pieces. We know that's going to be more. But if we have just a fraction times 3, there's no way it can be more than 3. It's going to be less. In fact, in this case, it's less than even 1 whole. So I just kind of explained. See if you followed or if you can come up with your own explanation. How can we tell then that 3 times 1 1/4 is greater than 3? What she said was that you know that it's going to be greater, that 3 times 1 1/4 is going to be greater than 3 because you know that 3 times the 1 wholes is going to give you 3. And then on top of it, you're going to be adding some fractions. Okay, rename mixed numbers and fractions. You can use multiplication and division to rename fractions and mixed numbers. So write 8 1/5 as a fraction. What can I change 8 times something to still equal 8? What would it need to be? 8 times what, Erin? 1. Now, if I'm going to turn the 1 into a fraction that we're going to use, it's got to be user-friendly over here. What fraction am I going to change it to? Sean? 5/5. Now, can I multiply 8 times 5/5? What is 8 times 5/5? Ronnie? 40/5. Okay. Now we're going to add 40 plus 1, which is 41/5. Write 32/5 as a mixed number. So we are going to do some division. Yay, we've missed division, haven't we? Yes. 32 divided by 5. Raise a quiet hand if you can tell me how many times does 32 go into, or 5 go into 32, Sophia? 6. 6 times 5 is? 30. When I subtract, I get? 2. Can 2 be divided by 5? Nope, so that's my remainder. Is that a fraction? No. So what we've done is we've said, well, I can get 6 groups of 5/5. I can get 6 wholes out of this fraction. So I got 6 wholes. And how many parts did I have left over? 2 out of my fraction 5/5. So just like we can do multiplication to change from a mixed number to a improper fraction, we can go from an improper fraction to a mixed number by doing division. How many wholes can you get, and how many parts are left over of that fraction? In this case, there was 2 parts left over of the fraction of fifths. Find 5 times 2 2/3. All right, we're going to change the mixed number 2 2/3 to an improper fraction. Hey class, what did you get?
2/3.
Okay, now I'm going to multiply 5 times 8/3. Tara, what did you get? 40 what? 40/3. There you go. Okay. Now to change this to a mixed number, we can divide. We can say 40 divided by 3. How many times can you get 3 into 4? 1 time. You should be paying attention. Bring down the 0. Now I have 10. What is 10 divided by 3? 3. When I did 3 times 3, I get 9. I subtract, and I have 1. And so that's my remainder. Now when I write this as a mixed number, my whole number is what? Just tell me. 13. And my fraction is how many parts I have left, which is 1. And the size of the parts are third size. To explain why your solution to this problem equaling what we got, why is that reasonable? If I said, could 5 times 2 2/3 be 13 1/3? Without even looking, could you tell me if that was reasonable or not? I mean, without even doing the math, could you tell me if that was reasonable or not? Go ahead and explain it. Sorry, Ebony, what do you think? Why do you think it might be reasonable?
It's reasonable because 5 times 2 just by looking at it equals 10, and 13 plus 3 is 11.
Okay, and that's exactly why you could tell it's reasonable. You have 2 whole numbers here and 5 whole numbers here. When you multiply those whole numbers together, they equal 10. 13 is not that far, and 13 is also more than 10. And since we're multiplying by these whole numbers and some fraction, my answer should be more than 10, but around 10. Okay? So it is definitely reasonable just looking at it that way. What about number 4? This is what Dylan says he can do. He says, I can just multiply 5 times 2, which is what?
10.
And then 5 times 2/3. So I can multiply this times this, and then this times this. Is that reasonable? Does that make sense or nonsense? And explain why or why not. Before we talk about it, put your hands down. Before we talk about it, I want you to consider when we multiply, if I'm multiplying 5 times 32, this represents what? 3 what? 3 tens. And this represents 2 ones. So this represents 3 tens, and this represents 2 ones, and I can do 5 times 30 plus 5 times 2. Remember when we did multiplication? Remember when we did multiplication earlier in the year? We could do this. Do you guys remember doing it that way? So I want you to think about this question again. Really think about it. Does it make sense or nonsense? Knowing this. Okay, so she said 5 times 2 is 10. And plus the 5 times 2/3 is 10/3. And then she changed the 10/3 to a mixed number of 3 1/3. And then she added that to the 10, and it gave her 13 1/3. Does anybody remember what property allows us to do this? Brian? Distributive. So it's distributive property that allows us to do the same thing when multiplying fractions. So knowing that if I have 5 times 2 2/3, if I can do 5 times 2 and then 5 times 2/3 and then add those two together, do I have to always change this to an improper fraction first? No, I don't have to. So I just taught you how to change it to an improper fraction first and then multiply, but you don't have to do it that way. You can just keep it this way and multiply by the whole number and multiply by the fraction. First thing I'm going to do is change the 3 2/3 to an improper fraction. I want you to do that in your head. Oh, 11 what? So 11/3, as you said nothing. 11/3. Now we can multiply. 2 times 11 is 22/3. And then we divide 22 divided by 3. What is 22 divided by 3, class? 7, which is 21. When I subtract, I get 1, so it's 7 remainder 1, which is 7 wholes in one part of our pieces that are third size. Okay, the other way we could do this is 2 times 3 is what? 6. 2 times 2/3 is 4/3. Okay, 2 times 3 was 6, and 2 times 2/3 is 4/3. Now, if you noticed, I wrote it kind of close. Be careful because you shouldn't leave it like this. Even though it's still the same thing, still means the same thing, I want you to think about it as 6 plus 4/3 because this is not ready to be done. We need to change it. What is the improper or what is the mixed number this should be? Daniel.
1 whole and 1 1/3.
Right. So we have to have 6 plus 1 1/3, which equals 7 1/3. If this way doesn't make sense to you yet, that's okay. You can do this way if you want to, or you can do this way, but you need to understand how to do this way at least. Okay? So, multiply and then write the product as a mixed number. Some of you have already been doing this because I told you if you come up with an improper fraction, go ahead and change it to a mixed number if you want. Now you have to. So those of you who have been doing it, you're already ahead of the game. Those of you who haven't, it's all right. Just do it now. So go ahead and do number 2 on your own and stop. First of all, what is my denominator going to be?
5.
And my numerator, I'm going to multiply 6 times 2 and I get 12. And then to change this to a mixed number, I do 12 divided by 5. How many? What is 12 divided by 5? 2. So my whole number is 2. I subtract and my remainder is 2. So it's, my fraction is going to be
2 and 2
2/5. 2 parts left out of the 5th size pieces. Most of you tried it this way, so I'm going to do it this way first. Most of you did 3 times 2 and 3 times 3/4. If I do 3 times 2, what is 3 times 2?
6.
I am showing my work. I'm putting that down because some of you forgot to put that back in later. Now I'm going to do 3 times 3/4. What is 3 times 3/4?
9/4.
9/4. Some of you just went with 9/4 and converted that to a mixed number and then you were done. You have the wrong answer because you forgot the 6. So this is me showing my work so I don't forget anything. So I'm going to go ahead and bring down the 6 again, and I'm going to change this to a mixed number. How many times does 4 go into 9?
2 times.
2 times. And how many is left over?
1.
1. Okay. If you did not get 8 1/4 and you did the other method, I'm going to show you where you might have made your mistake. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3 is 11/4. 3 times 11/4. 3 times 11 is
33.
33/4. And then I need to divide 33 divided by 4. 4 goes into 33 8 times, which is 32, and then I subtract and I end up with a 1. So 8 remainder 1, which would give me 8 wholes and 1/4 as my fraction. 2 times 1 is
3.
2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 5/6 is 10/6. So then I have 2 plus, I have to change this to a mixed number, which is 1 4/6. Because 6 goes into 10 one time with 4 left over. So 1 time with 4 left over. And so I end up with 3 4/6. Okay? Or, I'll tell you the super extra bonus in a minute. You can do 1 times 6 is 6 plus 5 is 11. So 2 times 11, 6. 2 times 11 is 22, 6. And then I do 22 divided by 6, which is what? 3. 3 times 6 was 18. And then I subtract and I end up with 4 pieces of the 6 size, which would be 3 4/6. What's the super extra bonus, Jalen?
3 2/3.
3 2/3. You simplify that fraction.